Yeah, well, Hawkeyes have clinched at least a share of the Big Ten West title. They're 5-2 in conference play, 8-2 overall. They'll clinch the outright title with their next win. They've done it thanks to an elite defense, which of course is nothing new. Saturday's shutout of Rutgers marked the 9th time in the last 23 games their opponents have failed to score even one touchdown. The man who oversees it all joining us for Coach Speak, he is Kirk. And Coach, you were a little bit emotional after that game on Saturday when you were interviewed on the field. What kind of got to you in that moment? What were you thinking about?
You know, you just think about the path that the players have been through. And, when you coach, there's another season, there's always, things down the road. But for players, the window's so short. And this year, we've just had so many things happen that it really, every August there are going to be things you can't foresee, injuries being the biggest one. But we've had more than our share of things to overcome this year, and injuries right at the top of the list. So to see our guys go out and play with some confidence and earn some confidence in that game was really heartwarming. We've been playing well in defense, been playing well in special teams. I would suggest we're a lot better defense than we were 8 weeks ago. And then clearly offensively is the first time we looked like we had the semblance of an offensive football team. So it was just good to see it all kind of come together against an opponent we have a lot of respect for and continue to have a lot of respect for. So just, all that kind of culminated at one point there.
I do want to unpack a little bit of what you were saying just in terms of what this team has been through. And as you say, there's the gambling investigation that surrounded not just your program, but Iowa State as well. It's cost you key players this year. You've had a ton of injuries, including the guy you brought in to be your starting quarterback, 2 All-American level tight ends. And then let's just be honest here, the mandate to let your offensive coordinator go at the end of the year, who also happens to be your son. How have you and how have this team persevered?
Well, like I said, I mean, you go back to August. That's one thing we know going in every year. There are going to be some landmines out there for you. You just never know what they're going to be. And the first one I'll talk about is the gambling thing. I'm struggling with that one because we're on the front line. Dave understands this. When you coach, it's pretty personal. It gets very intimate. And we're talking about a young guy, Noah Shannon, who's been in our program for 6 years, chose to come back, underwent surgery and out of season. He's been nothing but an outstanding young person. He's a good player too, but an outstanding young man. And to try to explain to a kid who's, 22, 23 years old, you're trying to give him an explanation to something that makes no sense. That was hard. And trying to explain to his mom, and she comes right back at me and says, so he would have been better off getting a DUI, or you can go down a list of things that would have been less. I'm still struggling with that, and maybe part of the equation, they should have the people making these decisions sign off on it like a name, and maybe have those people call the players or the parents and explain to them why they made the ruling like they did. I just think it was really rigid thinking, very antiquated. Relative to the life that all of our kids are exposed to now. So, I'm kind of stuck on that one a little bit. It's not going to do us any good. But my point there is I just want to try to humanize it because there is a humanistic element to this. And we all know the rules, and Noah fully admitted to breaking the rule, can't gamble. But, it just, so I'm burning enough clock on that one. But just that's at the top of the list. And then the injury part, you can't foresee that coming. But I'm a little bit, not amused or entertained, but I'm curious that it's funny how people can't put 2 and 2 together. I think the Jets probably look a little different without Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying Cade was Aaron Rodgers, but he's a proven quarterback who's been involved in championships. And then you lose your top 2 tight ends, our 2 top weapons offensively. We've had a lot of injuries offensively. If you'd seen our line last Monday, I would not have predicted what happened Saturday. So it's just all the things that we as coaches know about, and some of it's very public. But so our guys have gone through a lot. They've heard a lot of crap, I'm sure, and but that's part of football too, and it's good conditioning for life because you learn. You can't do anything about certain things. You just got to move on and deal with the circumstances that are in front of you. And I think our players have really done a good job. I'm really proud of the way they've all, stayed together, and instead of getting dragged into the mud, they've just kind of focused on getting better, improving, and that's something our better teams have done historically. So it doesn't happen automatically. You just have to have quality people, and we really have that here.
You know, Kurt, you mentioned the injuries to some of your top guys. I mean, I was as fired up as anybody when Cade McNamara went there, you know, to be your leading quarterback. So I can imagine how you and the staff and the players, everybody, Iowa fans felt. You know, the other thing, too, I'm watching this game the other day, and Sam Laporta makes a catch to win the game. And I start looking, and I said, you know, God, how about Jack Campbell, and how about Luke Van Ness? You realize that Iowa, they were tied for second behind a couple teams that had 3 first-rounders. Iowa had 2. We talk about injuries not being with your team. How do you replace? I mean, you're doing as great a job as anybody of taking guys and getting them to the next level, not just making the team, but first-round draft picks. What do your coaches do? I mean, how do you develop these guys? Is there any secret to it, or is it just the people? Because you've done a fabulous job of replacing guys that some guys can never replace them. I mean, they have a big drop-off.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dave. And it's you know, I came here 25 years ago. My goal is to run this like a good high school football program. And, you know, both of us played in a football-rich area, you know, Western Pennsylvania, some outstanding coaches. And I played for Joe Moore my senior year in high school. But I think he's the greatest high school coach and maybe the greatest coach ever lived. I'm obviously biased, but had a great impact on me. And I've been around a lot of great coaches in my career. But, you know, you just coach guys every day. I think, you know, I appreciate what you said about our guys. And probably the story there is, like, you know, a guy like Laporta really wasn't heavily recruited. Jack Campbell, he's kind of a regional guy. But those guys just improved every year. When we lose those guys, we typically don't have 1 or 2 on the shelf. Some schools do, we don't. So I think that's really what we've experienced this year. You talk about losing Luke Lachey, and Eric Hall, and Cade. You know, we don't have guys that were experienced on the bench. And, you know, so it takes time for those guys. And I think Deacon Hill is probably the best illustration. You know, I know everybody was stating the obvious, you know, his percentage, completion percentage, all that stuff. I'm not a stat guy, but even a dumb line coach can understand that. but the guy really hasn't played football since 2019. You know, he was on the scout team for a couple of years. He lived in California during the pandemic. Certainly they weren't playing football. And then he played on some AAU team or something like that, I guess, the spring of 21, 3 or 4 games. So, you know, there's no way to microwave it. You don't microwave improvement. And what I'm hopeful is that, you know, maybe he's got a little confidence now after Saturday. He played much better. But there's no way to get there fast. You just got to, you know, be patient. And the credit goes to him because he's worked every day. He's had a great attitude, experienced some disappointment, and, you know, involved in a couple turnovers in our loss a couple weeks ago. But he came back to work with a great attitude and is stuck with it. And, you know, so there's going to be more hard times in front of us. I know that. But, you know, when you're working with guys that get back on their feet and go to work, you know, what else can you ask for?
Hey, I think you're kind of a topic that I'm real curious of, because you see a hot topic now on any level. It's, culture. You know, whether it's high school, college, NFL. Got to develop the culture. Got to develop the culture. Well, what is the culture that you talk about 25 years being in Iowa, and you sustain it? To me, that's what separates a lot of coaches and a lot of programs. You know, if you were just to sum it up, you know, the culture at Iowa, and how do you sustain that, Kirk?
You know, I think culture is an overused word sometimes, but I think what was good 30 years ago, 40 years ago, is still good today. And it's like, you know, when you're raising kids, your biggest challenge is time. You know, we all have time issues. We're all busy. You know, some parents are working 2 jobs. Other people work jobs that are really taxing. And, you know, it's just hard. And when you're coaching, it's hard because your time is precious. But I think you got to make time, and you got to make time for your players, and you got to make time for one-on-one conversations, things like that maybe aren't involved in football. Just, you know, those basics that we all know as parents, and we all know as people growing up. And then, you know, the challenge is, it's like your kids. You know, we have 5 kids, and just when you get a chance to be one-on-one with one for a couple hours, what that can do. So I don't think it's any different than, you know, being a parent or whatever. And then the other part is you have to say no sometimes. Like, not everything is okay. Or maybe we can do it a little better. Let's try it again. Just, you know, the basics we all learned as kids. I think those things are, you know, still tested by time, and they still work. But to me, the trick is you've got to be You've got to have your attention directed towards that. You got to be intentional, and then you got to find the time. And I think our staff does a great job of that. They've done a great job of that. And it was like that when I was here in the '80s too with Coach Fry. It was just a program I thought that was very unique.
And my last thought is, I'll tell you what, with all the crazy stuff and changes going on, good and bad in college football is they should be very excited to have a guy like yourself, seriously, in the position you're in, directing these young kids. I tell you, the Big Ten Conference should be very happy that Kirk Kerentz is there. And I hope Iowa fans, Kurt, really appreciate what you have accomplished and continue to accomplish. That's the thing that I think just separates you from the other coaches that have a good year and then you don't hear of them again.
Can we talk about one of those accomplishments, Kirk? I want to ask you about tying Bo Schembechler on the all-time wins list in the Big Ten this weekend. So now you're only behind Woody Hayes and Amos Alonzo-Stagg. If we would have told you in 1999, when things weren't going so well, that you were going to be at this point 25 years down the line, what would you have said?
So you mean 1999 we were 1-10? Is that what you're saying?
That's the year I was alluding to. 2000 wasn't so hot either.
Record in the Big Ten. We were over. And not many more close either. So, yeah, how smart was I? I didn't have a signed contract for 20 weeks or 20 games, I guess. We were building a house. So, maybe I need a intelligence test. But fortunately for me and our family, and Dave can relate to this, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, are the most unique organization in pro football, and I think the smartest one, quite frankly. They've had 3 coaches since 1969. All 3 of them were very different, but all 3 were excellent. All 3 experienced ups and downs, and it's amazing how people can't figure that out. What we do is extremely competitive. Not every day is going to be a walk in the park. Not every day is going to go the way you want. So you can either blow it up and start over again and take about 10 steps back, or, really spend some time addressing problems or issues and trying to fix them. But I am an old guy, so, I look around, I'm amazed, the answer right now is blow it up and start over again. And, that ain't always the right answer. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have proven that. So I just feel fortunate. I totally dumb lucked into this thing in 1981. I didn't even know where Iowa was. End up with Coach Fry for 9 years, 9 of the best years of my life. And then to have a chance to come back here and, have some stability. Not every day's been perfect, certainly. And, but there's been a lot more good than bad. So I'm smart enough to know, I've been very fortunate to be in the right place. And I've had a lot of great people around me, whether when I was an assistant or now the guys that work on our staff have worked on our staff. And the common denominator, our players have been outstanding going back to 81, just good guys to work with. So that's the best part about all this stuff. And if you really enjoy the game, enjoy it for the right reasons, it's all about the people. And that's, I feel very, very fortunate that way.
Well, Coach, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much for taking the time out. Congratulations on the success you've had to this point this year, and best of luck the rest of the way going forward.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.